Welcome back to yet another episode of the Inverted Microphone. This is our second time recording this, so have a good time listening to the same conversation again, Joa'o. But we have a jam-packed Premier League episode to talk about after the last episode where we talked World Cup, and we did very well on social media, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. Thank you guys so much for all the support there. But now, turning our attention back to domestic football, we're going to talk some Big Six. We're going to talk about two teams that are rising out of not really nowhere, but are really high up the table compared to where preseason expectations were for them. This is going to be a lot to talk about in a short amount of time. And even then, we're going to talk some Champions League and talk about where we think teams will end up with only 2 games left to be played. Match week 6 was last week. So, Joa'o, I'll ask you again, how are you doing today?
Well, very happy to be here. Once again, you guys, thank you so much for the engagement. Thank you so much for the likes, even follows. We really appreciate seeing your comments, good or bad. The bad ones obviously help us grow, or they give us a great laugh. I definitely had a good laugh looking through them last week. But, thank you so much, you guys. We wouldn't be doing what we're doing without you. So, just happy to be here today.
Yeah, they definitely told us to stop making the podcast, and that podcast equipment should be more expensive. But hey, all comments are good comments because at the end of the day, it's an interaction. But we'll talk Premier League first. Like I said, Arsenal currently sit top of the table, 36 points, 11 wins from 16 games, coming off a very interesting win against Wolverhampton Wanderers. They dropped points against Chelsea a couple weeks back, and they dropped points just a week ago, a week and a half now since it's Tuesday morning, against Aston Villa. This Wolverhampton Wanderers game was not pretty by any stretch of the imagination. It took 2 own goals, one of which came in the 4th minute of second half stoppage time, to beat Wolves, who are the worst team in the Premier League. They currently sit bottom with only 2 points 16 games into the season. And with that being said, it's not just one of the worst teams the Premier League sees. It's probably one of the worst teams English football has ever seen in the top flight. But Arsenal got the job done. It's enough to stay top of the table for now. Joa'o, what really are your thoughts surrounding this Arsenal team at the moment?
Look, this Arsenal team, they have the pieces, they have the component, they have the factors that are going to allow them to go ahead and do something, whether it's the Premier League, whether it's the Champions League. I know they have it. There's quality in this squad. That's not the issue. Right now, just sort of looking at this team, it's just things that they have to fix on their own. It's things that they have to try to smoothen out as the season goes. And right now, it's going to be really important in trying to go ahead and pick up all the points possible, especially in the Premier League. Because you have another side that we're going to talk about very soon in Manchester City that's picking up points. They're getting hot. But now it's the question, will Arsenal falter under pressure? Will they fall under pressure, or will they go ahead and do something different, do something that we haven't been able to see from them in the past 3 seasons?
I definitely agree, and it's going to be a difficult road to finishing the season for Arsenal. And, looking at this game, it repeated a lot of similar themes from when Arsenal dropped points away to Villa, losing late there, drawing to Sunderland away. Arsenal struggled to break down a low block for large portions of this game and just didn't have that moment of magic where they had against Sunderland, where they scored 2 beautiful goals in that game to get the 2 goals they needed. They struggled to break down Wolves' back 5 in this game, and ultimately it was a large collection of issues. And I'm going to signal out one player who really kind of spearheads the attacking issues, and that's Victor Gyökeres, who was the big money signing. We've talked about that a lot on this podcast, about Victor Gyökeres' transition to the Premier League, because he's coming off a campaign where he scored 54 goals for Sporting. Right, it was one of the most historic campaigns Portuguese football has ever seen. He comes to the Premier League. So far, he's only got 6 goals across 19 matches in all competitions. This one was another game where he struggled at times, and he, kind of struggled to adapt to the play that Arsenal had. There was a moment, and I've talked about this before with you, Joa'o, is that Arsenal were attacking. Saka plays the ball across, kind of the 6-yard box, and Victor Gyökeres is about 3-4 yards too far to get a touch on it. If he gets a touch on it, as long as it's not the worst touch you've ever seen, it's in the back of the net, right? And even then, it probably could still go into the back of the net. And for him, he just needs that better positioning. Now, it's not just Gyökeres that's having the bad positioning; it's the whole kind of Arsenal attack. Later on in that same clip, that ball goes past Gyökeres, past the Wolves defenders. Who's there on the left wing? It should be Gabriel Martinelli. Martinelli's about 10 yards back and about 15 yards too wide, and it ends up resulting in nothing. It was a very frustrating game for Arsenal, and they need to kind of get these problems out now because they can't have them down the road.
Oh, that's for sure. And I mean, the topic with Victor Gyökeres, I just think, once again, strikers similar to his build, they're looking for reception, but obviously you have to be there for that reception. You have to be there. You have to be on time. I wouldn't consider this Victor Gyökeres signing a flop. I mean, he still had 6 goals for the Arsenal squad, was out in the month of November, but still, he's going to be adapting to this Premier League play, which is much faster than Liga NOS. He's going to be adapting to the defending as well, which in my opinion is much better than Liga NOS as well. I mean, Premier League is arguably one of the best, if not the best leagues in the world. It's going to take time. So instead of being reactionary, we should sort of wait, see how it plays out. If the end of the season Victor Gyökeres doesn't hit a certain mark of goals, or he just continues committing these mistakes, that's when you can start saying, oh, well, maybe he was a flop. But even then, we're at a point in the season where he's going to continue working out these things. He's barely coming back from playing in the month of December. So, I mean, it's going to take time. But even then, this Arsenal squad, Bukayo Saka, absolutely phenomenal. When you need a guy who is going to go ahead and be there during the difficult moments and sort of push you through and help you just eke out a result, Bukayo Saka's there. There's pieces in this squad that are going to allow them to flourish, and it's going to, once again, it's going to be a sort of probationary period and sort of seeing how they play, because they have to adjust things. But at the end of the day, if they do everything correctly, if they do their work how they're supposed to and flatten everything out, this Arsenal squad is going to be up there with the Manchester City.
I definitely agree with that, especially on the point about Bukayo Saka. I mean, he doesn't get credited with an assist in this game because both of them were own goals, but he created 3 chances, and he created the 2 own goals. You know, he should have been given an assist just because of the quality of the ball he puts in. The first one, ball for Gabby Jesus. And then the second one, or rather, that's the second one. The first one was a corner, which was so close to being an Olympico. Comes off the post and then just hits Sam Johnstone on his back into the back of the net. Back to Gabby Jesus and really the whole striker discussion with Arsenal. Now that Jesus is back, he offers a much different profile than Victor Gyökeres. It's kind of more similar in a way to Mikel Merino, and the fact that he's going to be more involved in build-up, more involved in breaking down a low block. Gabby Jesus is obviously way more technical, way more creative than Mikel Merino or Kai Havertz even then. So I'm intrigued to see how Arsenal can use the duo of Gabby Jesus and Victor Gyökeres to break down these teams, because quite frankly they're going to need it. They're going to need creativity, they're going to need goals, because as we're going to talk about now, when you've got a team like Manchester City on your tail, they've won 5 games in a row in all competitions for their last 4 Premier League games. Their lone loss in their last 5 was a 2-1 loss away to Newcastle United, which is pretty much everyone's bogey side when you play them away. Erling Haaland, I don't know if you've heard of this guy before, Joa'o. He's this Norwegian striker. He's 25 years old. He's scored 17 goals in 16 Premier League games. He's scored 23 goals in 22 games across all competitions. He hasn't even needed to play in the Carabao Cup. I have you heard of him, and have you seen what he's doing this season? Because it's kind of ridiculous.
Well, look, if you're not hearing about Erling Haaland, you must be living under a rock, because this man is an absolute madman. And I mean, he's just going off right before a World Cup year, or basically going into a World Cup year. If you're a Norwegian fan, this is what you want. This is what you need. And I mean, it's the perfect complement to this Manchester City squad, and a balanced midfield and a solid defense that's finally finding its way. you have a guy that's scoring you goals. You have a guy that's putting in the work. And, I mean, it's absolutely phenomenal what he's doing this season.
Absolutely. And the game against Crystal Palace was certainly no different in his run of phenomenal form. 2 goals, one from the spot, one right before halftime. He's Erling Haaland. He's going to score. He took 2 shots the whole game. He scores off the 2 shots. The other goal scorer, Phil Foden, I think he's an important piece to talk about because as Palace is a very good side in their own right, they don't concede many goals. They're 5th in the Premier League for a good reason. They've only conceded 15 goals across 16 Premier League games, which is a pretty nuts record. But Phil Foden, he's coming off a season where he struggled, and many people, myself included, were skeptical about what he would be this season. Was it, just a few great years and this is what he actually is, or what is it? Because last season he had 10 goals, 5 assists. This season he has proven me wrong. He's gotten 7 goals, 2 assists in the Premier League. He's added 2 goals and another assist in the Champions League. The goal contributions are there. There was another one today, or not today, against Crystal Palace. Phil Foden's form is so crucial to this team's success. And I'm honestly shocked to be saying that because I think, as I said, I would not have said that before the season started. But the form that Phil Foden is in right now, if you're an England fan, going back to our World Cup episode, you have to be excited because this is a guy who is stepping up and delivering going into that season, going into that World Cup year. I'm shocked from what I'm seeing from him.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, last year, there were a lot of names being used towards Phil Foden. There were a lot of really just conversations, and will Phil Foden never be the same? And sort of seeing him rejuvenate, see him come back and just have an absolutely phenomenal season. I mean, once again, this Manchester City squad needed its compliments and needed its little pieces and tweaks to go ahead and go back to their regularly scheduled programming, we could say, after all these years of success. But I mean, we should also highlight one of their summer signings in Ryan Cherky. He's been absolutely phenomenal down that right hand side. He's not only been able to exploit the spaces, find the spaces, he's been pretty accurate in his passes. If I'm not wrong, 92% pass accuracy in this game against Crystal Palace. So I think he's going to be a vital part of this team going forward. And not only that, but getting Haaland the ball in the middle of the box, if not playing Silva, doing something there, he is going to be there, and he is going to be one of those guys that shows up, because if he's not scoring, he's assisting, and he's been doing absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, he absolutely has been. I've been certainly shocked by him. I was a little bit concerned about how he would be able to adapt to the Premier League, but again, he's another guy that's proven me wrong. Another unit that has proven me wrong with this Man City. I had some hot takes about Man City going into this season. I wasn't too fond of them being titled challengers, but I've been proven wrong. The back line, especially with the signing of Gianluigi Donnarumma, the back line ahead of him has been so rock solid. I mean, holding Real Madrid to 1 goal. I know they had that just terrible game against Fulham where it's 5-4, but that's just, that's a one-off. They've only conceded 16 goals in the Premier League this season. It was really one of the main issues that I was worried about with this team is the center back depth is interesting. I mean, your center backs that you've been playing lately have been Ruben Diaz and Josko Vardiol, who are 2 good center backs, but I didn't think they were going to be 2 title-winning center backs. Mateus Nunes has been very good at right back, and then against Real Madrid, he scored a goal. Over the last few weeks, he has been playing some of his best football. Nico O'Reilly, at 20 years old, he has been such a good young talent. I'm very excited to see what he can be over the future. And I think, again, if you're Man City, the fact that your defense is bunkering down like this, is able to, just shut down opposition attacks with the just continued success that they're having there, the fact that your attack has Erling Haaland in it, you're a prime title contender if all things stay together, if everything stays together. They're probably the prime favorite for winning the title now.
And I think one thing that's also going to sort of end up affecting the squad, which hopefully it doesn't, you need your players to stay healthy, especially your defenders. Because if one of your defenders goes down, you still have Khrushchev and Ake on the bench. The issue is people start getting injured, your quality of play is going to go down. You're going to have a piece that needs to fit into that squad, adapt to that squad, and sort of adjust and to play how you've normally been playing. But here's the thing, Manchester City was one of those squads where you couldn't be reactionary at the beginning of the season. Why? Because you have Pep Guardiola, because you have still quality players in this squad, and I mean, not only that, you have the money to back it up. Where if Manchester City would have been underperforming at this point, we would have been hearing rumors about moves in January. We would have been hearing about, oh, well, City's going to spend this amount of money on this amount of player because they can do so and because they will do it if necessary. So, I mean, absolutely phenomenal for Manchester City. And once again, they're on Arsenal's tail, and it's going to be on Arsenal. Right now, Arsenal can control their destiny. Right now, Arsenal can control their fate. It's just how are you going to do against those sides that really have haunted you for the past couple of years, and you have been dropping points against them.
Yeah, and talk about Man City's transfers. I mean, last season they had that panic January where they bring in Kushner, Vitor Reis, Omar Marmoush, Nico Gonzalez. They spent a lot of money in January because they panicked. And I do think they don't really have the depth this season if injuries do happen. John Stones hasn't been fit for a long time. Kushner hasn't been playing, and he isn't really a Premier League guy. Rodri has only played 1 minute in the last 2 months because he hasn't been fit. So we'll have to see on what the future holds with them. We're going to skip the team in third place for now. We'll come back to them later because they're a team I wanted to talk about, but I think they deserve something a little bit more special than the third team to talk about. So we're going to go to Chelsea, who... very interesting. Why? Because they're fourth place. They were second for a long time. They've dropped points in 3 of their last 5 Premier League games. And Enzo Maresca had these most bizarre comments I've ever seen in my life the other day. They lost 2-1 to Atalanta away in the Champions League on last Tuesday, December 9th. Bit of a heartbreaker. Concede late. Concede 2 second-half goals. And then they beat Everton at home 2-0. Good result. They needed that. Enzo Maresca, in between or after that Everton game, said, yeah, the 48 hours before it were the worst 48 hours I've had as a manager with Everton. Now, it's paraphrased, but it's effectively the same quote. It's an absolutely bizarre thing to say because I don't think the results have really been that bad, bar the Leeds loss. I mean, you draw against Arsenal. Fine. Arsenal, they're more disappointed by that draw. You effectively won that because you were down to 10 men. Yeah, you draw against Bournemouth, but it's not hard enough to get it back on track. It's just a couple games didn't go your way. And to say that, I think it really puts Chelsea at risk of the squad becoming kind of disillusioned with Maresca's ideas because, they're a younger team. They've got a weird amount of players at their disposal in Chelsea. Their squad is just jam-packed. Their dressing room, I don't even want to know how packed it is. And to say this when you're still fourth, which is probably a success. I think you have to get Champions League football. You have to probably, 3-4 is not a bad finish for Chelsea this season. To say that, though, when your team wins, I think it is going to cause problems for this Chelsea side.
Absolutely. And I mean, especially seeing this Chelsea squad doing great things this season. I mean, they smacked Barcelona 3-0. I mean, it's absolutely mind-boggling to sort of hear this, especially from a manager like Maresca, especially in the way where you're not out of it completely. If some weird thing happens, or if some inconsistencies happen, or if it's football, anything can happen. Who knows? Arsenal could drop points, City could drop points. You pick up points that you need, and you could all of a sudden be fighting for a Premier League trophy. It's absolutely insane to sort of hear what's going on. But just looking at this Chelsea squad, fourth place seems about right. Obviously, you're missing players like Levi Colwill, who's supposed to be back until April. You're missing a Romeo Lavia. You're missing a Liam Delap. But still, this squad, it's been doing its work. Gusto was absolutely phenomenal in the game against Everton. Cole Palmer, still your main guy, scoring your goals. And I mean, you still have young talents on the bench, or at least coming off the bench last week. Estevao is absolutely phenomenal. You're bright. I don't know where those comments are coming from. Really, it'll be interesting to see sort of how Chelsea decides to play out. I mean, just looking at their next couple of games here lined up for them, they have Cardiff in the EFL Cup today, then they have Newcastle, Aston Villa, Bournemouth, and then the biggest challenge coming into the new year, Man City, January 4th. I think that's going to be an electric game. I think that's going to be an absolutely phenomenal game. But if they can pick up points, they'll be in a great position in the Premier League.
Yeah, and again, it's, 4 or 5 wins in a row can all of a sudden change your season. If you're the United Strand, it gets you a haircut. But at the end of the day, I think Chelsea, they have the talent to do things this season. I just have questions about if Maresca's the guy to get you across the line. I'm glad you brought up Cole Palmer because he scored a goal against Everton. It was his first goal since September 17th in the Champions League against Bayern Munich. Now, of course, he's missed a ton of time since then. He has this recurring groin injury, which just kind of keeps tweaking. It reminds me a lot of Emil Smith-Rowe, who had a groin injury when I think he was with RB Leipzig on loan, and it never fully recovered. It just kind of kept getting tweaked, and it's kind of like a hamstring where you never fully recover unless you just stay away. And I think I'm worried about that with Cole Palmer because he is such a talent. Last season was his burst onto, or not last season, last couple of seasons has been his burst onto the scene. But if he can't stay fit, what is the future of Cole Palmer? And obviously this is a doomsday scenario that I'm talking about. Emil Smith-Rowe is probably, the worst example of a groin injury because it affected him so poorly, so badly. But, questions do have to be asked there about if he can stay fit.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. And I mean, it'll be one of the most disappointing stories in football if Cole Palmer ends up having a career ending, which I don't even want to talk about it because then I don't want something to happen and then people are like, oh, you jinxed it, you made it happen.
Yeah, you did. I will be clipping that.
But I mean, here's the thing. Cole Palmer's 23 years old. He's been doing great since he burst onto the scene. If he continues to stay healthy, he'll be that guy for Chelsea, and he'll be that guy for Chelsea for a very long time. But it's sort of interesting to see how things are going to play out. And interesting you mentioned that first goal since September 17th, because I mean the sides they've played after that, or at least the games he's played in, they haven't really won those games either. So I mean those difficult games he hasn't shown up, but even then that was a good while back. That was a good while ago. So I mean it'll be interesting to see how this Chelsea squad plays out. But really in my mind, I see it positively. I really do. I mean, once again, this squad, they're good in depth, obviously. I mean, you have all those pieces. Yeah. You have all those compliments. It'll just be a wait and see once again.
Yeah, and to wrap things up on Chelsea, it makes me wonder about the effects of the Club World Cup when you think about Cole Palmer. When you think about his fitness. Because he played 80-plus minutes in all but one of those Club World Cup games over summer. I know Chelsea had a very light preseason schedule, but still, it makes you kind of consider what's going on, whether or not it's worth it.
The only good thing that I'll sort of see about that in terms of perspective of England is their midfield is absolutely stacked. I think their midfield it has a lot of pieces that could go in, and maybe they do end up limiting Cole Palmer's minutes in this English squad. Sorry, losing my words there a little bit. But, I mean, that's the only positive that I can see out of there. He won't have to play those excruciating minutes, and even then, if England has to sub someone in or out, they'll be A-okay.
Our World Cup episode was last week, Joa'o. No, I'm just kidding. We'll pivot now to the next Big Six team in the Premier League. Why? Because we're going to skip over Crystal Palace and save them for later. And this is a team where they're probably coming off the very most interesting game you'll ever see in your life in the Premier League. 4-4 draw against AFC Bournemouth. It comes after Ruben Amorim made some very interesting comments on not social media, in an interview, which led to some interesting posts on social media. He called out multiple of his academy products, Harry Amas, Chido Opie Martin. I'm looking at Joel's reaction there. It's you can obviously tell it's not great. And it led to some of the players posting and then allegedly posting some kind of shots at the manager. But I don't want to focus too much on that because it is interesting, I think, but I also don't really care enough because I think Ruben Amorim has kind of stepped on a lot of toes in his time in terms of the academy players, especially with Kobe Mainu. I mean, he's probably the face of that. But this 4-4 draw against Bournemouth, bizarre game. You know, you go up 2-1, you go down 3-2, you go up 4-3, and then it ends 4-4. It was a bizarre game. Bruno Fernandes played very, very well. But it comes with rumors, not that he's leaving, but that Ruben Amorim is considering a switch away from the back three, the 3-4-2-1, 3-4-3, however you really view it. Joa'o is obviously praying to the heavens there. And I have to agree. I think a 3-4-2-1 is an idea that works if you have the 11 best players for that position, right? It is a formation that is dependent on each guy being the best at their role. And I think, playing a double pivot of Bruno Fernandes and Casemiro isn't the best usage of either of those two players. I think both of those two, especially, maybe not Casemiro, because I think Casemiro played well in this game, but I wonder about his future, professionally, just because he is old. He is 33. But I think in a midfield three where you have a single pivot and you have or maybe even a double pivot and you're pushing 110, you've got two wingers out wide. I think that would be the best utilization of Bruno Fernandes. And I think when you have a player like Bruno Fernandes, you build the system around the player, right? You don't build the system and then plug and play the pieces that you want. The best players, you have to think about them first when you build the system. And I think that's a big piece as to why Manchester United have struggled at times under Ruben Amorim, is that Bruno Fernandes, the captain of the side, the best player in the side, has kind of been an afterthought in the tactics.
And look, I totally agree with that. And I think that is a big part of sort of why we're seeing everything that's going on. I mean, highlighting Bruno Fernandes real quick, absolutely insane what's going on from him. 12 goals and assists in the Premier League. Has played 16 games this season. Some are regarding him as the best midfielder in the Premier League in terms of stats. I think that in the games where he's been involved, he is a menace. He is a force to be reckoned with. And once again, he is sort of like a Bukayo Saka to an Arsenal in the terms of that he will be there through the thick and thin. And yes, a lot of people might not like him because he complains a lot. Yes, a lot of people might not like him because of his attitude, but he gets stuff taken care of on the pitch. Now, let me go ahead and talk about Ruben Amorim real quick. A lot of people are saying Ruben in. A lot of people are saying Ruben out. I want to clear my stance on this sort of particular term real quick, or on this argument. If you were to ask me today if I want Ruben in or Ruben out, I would continue to say that I am Ruben in. And let me continue on why. Are there things that he needs to fix? Yes. He needs to be better on the substitutions. He needs to be better with academy players because that's where a lot of our success has been coming from the past couple of years. And you cannot have a player like Kobe Mainu sitting on the bench, and you cannot have a player like Kobe Mainu possibly leaving in January or in the summer. Why? Because that's absolutely ridiculous. You have a great young talent on the bench. Now look, if he decides to change up the formation, I think this will be great for this Manchester United squad. But looking at the position this team is in, 5th place, you tell me that we're in 5th place last year, I am happy.
Place.
6th place, sorry. I was thinking about yesterday. He has taken this squad to a Europa League final. He has done great things with this squad, and here's the thing. If you end up switching managers every 6 months to a year, you will never have something constant. You will never have something fixed, and it will be the same vicious cycle over and over and over and over again. And the one thing that Manchester United fans are blameful for, and I will say this with my chest because I am one of them. I don't know if I should have said that or not. They are one of the most, if not the most, reactionary fan bases in the Premier League. Something goes wrong, burn the whole project, get rid of the whole thing. It shouldn't be that way. Good things take time. And once again, this squad, has seen worse days last season. There are things that are going to be fixed. There are pieces that if they come through, especially defensively, I think this squad can flourish. I think this squad can go ahead and go back to those glory days, but you have to go through the struggle. You have to go through the mud in order to see the greener grass on the other side. Now, talking about yesterday's game, Lenny Joa'o and Aiden Heaven, not a combination you want to see in the back line. I think they're both young. I think that Heaven is still an experience for his Premier League side. I think that Joa'o needs that experience to sort of guide him. I think that it should have been a Lenny Joa'o, Lisandro Martinez instead of a Joa'o Heaven. That could be interchangeable. But you have a player like Benjamin Šeško coming back. This midfield is going to be better. You can plug in Mount where Casemiro is. Yes, is it going to be different? A little, but I think Mount is a versatile player that can go up and attack if needed to, or can go ahead and fall back, sort of play that 8 position if needed to as well. But this will sort of conclude my rant with Ruben Amorim and sort of this game yesterday.
Yeah, you're kicked off the podcast.
But but once again,
I think
little by little.
I think that with Amorim though is, I think if you had sacked him after last season, I wouldn't have been totally against it as a neutral. I don't support United, so I'm completely neutral in this. Because you finished 15th. You finished tied on points with Wolves, right? You're only a few spots above the relegation zone. If the bottom 3 hadn't been so bad last season, hadn't been so generationally bad, because United in 15th were 17 points above the relegation zone. Tottenham in 17th was 13 points above the relegation zone. If that hadn't been so generationally bad, you are genuinely in a position where you were in a relegation battle last season. Now, obviously that's if, but whatever, if Joa'o had wheels on him, he'd be a bicycle, but he doesn't. He's Joa'o. So at the end of the day, being 6th place in the Premier League is a plus. I think an issue that United's had is really Amorim's stubbornness, and even considering what he said in the press conference the other day about the young players, kind of calling them out, but more so about the formation, the 3-4-2-1. He has been way too insistent on sticking with that. The fact that the rumors are coming out that it might get changed is a huge plus, because I think you can finally kind of get the best out of everyone. I think you can play, Mboma on the wing, you can play Cunha on the wing. I think everything's going to kind of work out. I think, though, in January, I think United is going to have to make some moves if they want to be able to jump up to the Champions League. I think that would be a little bit too ambitious for this season. But if you're United, with the kind of, not ambition, but with the story that you have, with who you are, with the stature, that's the word I was looking for, the stature that you are as Manchester United, I think you need to go out, get some center backs in you, because, you said about the back line playing Lenny Joa'o and Aiden Heaven. You didn't mention Luke Shaw, who's somehow, someway still showing up and playing at his big age. Obviously, Lisandro Martinez is there. Is he the same Lisandro Martinez of old? No, but he's still a good enough center back. He's serviceable. They just need to make that splash, I think, to really lift them. And I think, again, I'm finally seeing things with United that I like. And it's not just an over-reliance of guys like Bruno and Ahmad, which it was at times for last season. And I do think Ahmad has taken a step back this season, but it's not a bad step back. It's more of a he's taken the back seat rather than he's kind of dropped off a cliff, which is good for United because, when you spend money on guys like Brian Mbeumo, you spend money on Matheus Cunha. You spend money last season, but he really didn't deliver because of injuries and stuff. But on Mason Mount, it is okay that Ahmad is taking a back seat, and it's going to provide life for this team. Again, I think Champions League, is a little too much for this team. It could harm you because as we've seen with some of these teams like Villa in past years, Newcastle in past years, you get the Champions League in Newcastle this year, and it becomes too much. The Europa League is easy because you're playing some of these poor sides. I mean, you look at Manchester United's run to the the Europa League final last season. They had some easy games, and that's no disrespect. But Atletico Bilbao, that's just not that hard. Real Sociedad, Lyon, I know that one. United made that a little bit hard on themselves, that Lyon tie. But you're playing FCSB. Again, there are easy games in there. Rangers, you played Rangers. Like, come on. It's much easier than what Arsenal and City and even Newcastle, again, as I go back to them, are playing in the Champions League this season, where City's coming off playing a game against Real Madrid. Arsenal played Bayern Munich in a week where they had to play Tottenham and then Chelsea on the front and back end. Champions League is difficult, and again, I think where the squad is going into next season, where it will likely be, it's not a good thing. Moving on now, because we spent way too much time on Man United. Thanks, Joa'o, for your
apologies.
You might end up in the Zach Dorosic shadow realm after talking that long. We go from 6th place to 7th place and talk about Liverpool. This was a drop-off where I said I had a lot of hot takes about Manchester City. I did not have a lot of hot takes about Liverpool. Why? Because I have been proven right, and I'm glad to say that. They are struggling. They have conceded 24 goals. They have a goal difference of +2. Yes, they're 7th, but when you're coming off a title win, that's not easy. It's difficult to have that big of a drop-off and really kind of take anything at face value. I know they've had some injuries. Jeremy Frimpong hasn't been staying fit, and he hasn't really been good when he has been. Dominic Szoboszlai got hurt too, so he's going to miss time, and he's arguably been Liverpool's best player. But we'll talk about their last game against Brighton quickly. Hugo Ekitike brace, 2-0. He's been excellent this season. He's continued to be excellent this season. But it was Mo Salah's return to the lineup. He played 60-odd minutes after Joe Gomez went down hurt. What a weird scenario there, because Mo Salah is Liverpool's best player ever. Honestly, you could honestly argue that just because he's brought you a Champions League, he's brought you now two Premier Leagues as well, 2 different managers. So it's not like he's taking it as part of the system. He is a quality player. I mean, to call him a quality player is honestly an insult because he's world class. And the way he has been treated this season, I understand this season has not been good by his standards by any stretch of the imagination, but he's still Mo Salah. And his statement, to be fair, I don't agree with what he did, going to the media, talking about how it feels like he's been kind of blackmailed by the club. But it is a weird moment for him in the club. And with him going off to AFCON fairly soon, I don't know exactly when the training camp starts, but they're playing a friendly right now, so that's awesome. He's not in the squad as we speak, but hey, so I think it's a weird thing for a player to do of his stature at the club, but also for a club to do to a player of his stature.
Yeah, no, I mean, you covered all the bases, or all the topics, I guess, of sort of what's going on with Mo Salah and Liverpool. Very odd, but I mean, this squad, it's been struggling once again. They had that stretch of games where Liverpool fans wanted to pull their hair out, and if they have hair, obviously, want to pull their hair out, and
fair enough.
And also, really, really, a lot of people calling for Salah out. I was surprised. I was very, very, very surprised. Why? I mean, this Liverpool squad, they've had their success. He won you guys a title last year. Things are difficult, yes, but you also have a lot of pieces in the mix. You're struggling with injuries, but still, you have great players that are going to continue performing for you. I mean, Ugo Ekitike, however you want to call him, he has been on one for this Liverpool squad, and yes, he might have picked up a knack last game, but I mean, still scores a brace. Absolutely phenomenal. He's going to continue performing if he stays healthy for the squad.
I think, though, the issue with why Liverpool fans were kind of Salah out in a way is obviously, you sell 190 million pounds worth of players, which is a phenomenal window in terms of selling guys, because you let Darwin Nunez go to Saudi, you let Luis Diaz and Jarrell Kwanzaa both go to Germany. You get some money for Trent, who was supposed to leave on a free. You get some money so you could let him play in the Club World Cup. But the issue is you spend 416 million pounds, and it is going to only rise because there are add-ons. You bring in Jeremy Frimpong, Florian Wirtz, Milos Kerkez, Marmardashvili from Valencia, who was technically a deal from last season, but still. Hugo Ekitike that you mentioned, Giovanni Leone, and Alexander Isak on the final day. That is so much money that they have spent. It is just honestly absurd in what they've gotten out of those players. I mentioned that Frimpong hasn't been able to stay fit at times. He's been injured for the last little bit. But when he's been on the pitch, he has been poor. But that was the expectation. The guy is not a back four fullback. He is not a traditional fullback. Liverpool fans had Trent Alexander last season. You go out and sign someone who is more attack inclined in Jeremy Frimpong. When you were complaining about Trent's defensive lapses last season, it doesn't make sense to me that why they would go out and bring in Frimpong. I've talked about this a million times. I could go on and on about that. Florian Wirtz has not adapted to the Premier League very well at all. He's yet to get a goal or an assist in the Premier League. He's gotten 3 assists this season, 1 in the Community Shield, which that's a friendly. So 2 assists this season. It hasn't been good for him. Milos Kerkez has been a liability at left back. And, I think the only 2 players that you can really say, okay, they've been good, but then you look at the price tag, Hugo Ekitike has been very good, I think. He's got 10 goals on the season in all competitions, include 1 in the Community Shield, but 7 goals in the Premier League. He has been very good. Alexander Isak, it took him a minute to get going, and it's still taken him a minute. He's only gotten 1 goal in the Prem. Hugo Ekitike, I think, and this is another thing that we talked about preseason, you bring in Ekitike. You then go out and sign the exact same profile when those 2 players are almost unicorns in themselves in Alexander Isak. We talked about, who should Newcastle sign now that Ekitike is gone? I phrased that wrong. Who should Newcastle sign now that they're probably going to lose Isak to Liverpool? Hugo Ekitike. He goes to Liverpool too. It just makes no sense that they would bring in both of these players for a ton of money. You combine the 2 transfer fees, it's over 200 million. It's only going to get more because of add-ons. It's bizarre. And it's why there are complaints about what Liverpool is at the moment. And I mean, Dominic Szoboszlai's injury hurts. You've got a couple easy games coming up. I mean, Tottenham away, Wolves home, Leeds home, Fulham away. Those are games that are get right and see where you are. If you pick up 4 wins, you can be back in the top 4, which I think is a success. I think if you are not in the Champions League next season, I honestly think that you would have to get rid of Arne Slot just because you spent 420 million pounds almost, and you don't get Champions League. If that's not considered a total failure by the board, then I don't know what ever will be at Liverpool.
Yeah, I mean, looking at a club of the stature of Liverpool, that's what it has to be. I mean, the expectations have to be high, especially with recent success, especially with things that they've done. You can't have that leniency of a Manchester United board, which still, they shouldn't be lenient. They shouldn't have that leniency of a smaller club. So it's very interesting to see. And what Florian Wirtz has done this season, it's been sort of disappointing, right? He's been good on his passes. He's been good on he's been getting better with sort of trying to fill in this space and trying to find this position on the pitch. But besides that, it's been a disaster. It's been an absolute disaster. I mean, for a player that you've spent so much money on, it's completely odd to see why he's not working. But even then, that Ekitike signing from Liverpool, it really just seemed like a screw you to Newcastle or a screw you to anyone else. Like if I can't have him, then nobody else can, essentially. So it was like very odd once again. But I mean, you mentioned that Liverpool has easy results. They've gone through some tough matches. I mean, they beat Real Madrid in the Champions League. If I'm not wrong, they just came off of beating Inter Milan, Inter Milan 1-0. So I mean, it'll be interesting to see sort of how this squad continues advancing, continues growing. But I mean, the only way that this Liverpool squad can go is sort of up, because they've been doing better, they've been improving. It's just if they have another slump, this could be a very disappointing season, and this could be the end of Arne Slot as we know it at Liverpool.
Yeah, and we'll get into this a little bit later when we talk about the Champions League. But you bring up, there's Liverpool's success in the Champions League. I think it shows the quality gaps between the Premier League and every other league. The fact that Liverpool can be having such a bad run form. Newcastle, who is in the bottom half of the table, is currently 12th. Tottenham is 11th in both the Premier League and Champions League. I think it shows that there is a gap between the Premier League and everyone else. But we'll move to Tottenham now. Do you want to laugh, Joa'o? Do you want to have a laugh, or is it just me that's feeling like they want to laugh? Because this is absolutely hilarious, what we have seen from the boys in North London this year. They sacked Ange Postecoglou after winning the Europa League, which I do not disagree with. I think with how far down they were in the league table, it was not inherently the wrong decision to go out and make that move, right? And now you're in this position where, okay, who do you get? Thomas Frank. Fine. That's a good pick. I like Thomas Frank with Brentford. He always had a knack for the big games, finding ways to win. And so now, okay, what's your transfer window going to look like? What are you going to do in the transfer window that is really going to separate you, right? You kind of get forced into buying Xavi Simons because you lose out on Eze, who went to Arsenal and was probably realistically only ever going to go to Arsenal. You spend a good amount of money on Kevin Danso, who hasn't been in the squad for the last few games, is an okay center back. You complete the deal to bring in Matisse Tell, who has struggled, not just for game time, but to find the back of the net as well. And other than that, I mean, Joao Palhinha, technically, is here on loan, and I think he's good, but he's not great. Kolo Muani, he's just not doing anything at all. 9 games without a goal in the Premier League. He did score 2 against PSG, which it's pretty funny, right? His technical is his club. And they're coming off a 3-0 loss against Nottingham Forest, which they did not look good at all. They had 2 goals they conceded, or 2 of the goals they conceded. Callum Hudson-Odoi and Ibrahim Sangare. I gotta just clap that was goals, because those 2 goals that each one of them scored single-handedly got them into the inverted microphone team of the week, which I only vote on. I'm the only voter, but hey, it's all right. Xavi Simons, though, back to him. I think he kind of encapsulates a lot of struggles that this team has had. He's started 8 games in the Premier League, played in 13 total, a goal and 2 assists. And I think that was kind of the worry that I had with Xavi Simons is you go from the Bundesliga. When you watch a lot of Bundesliga film from last season, you watch Florian Wirtz, this is the same problem with him, and Xavi Simons, same problem. There's a lot of space. And it's not because it's not fast, but they're just kind of less aggressive in their defending. They're more willing to back off, and make the move at the final moment. And with players of Simmons' quality, of Florian Wirtz's quality, they're going to make you pay for that. In Premier League, that's not the case, and you're seeing the quality kind of be taken down a notch from those 2 players.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, here's the thing. Xavi Simons has been, you could say, disappointing. I mean, in terms of Tottenham season, he's been sort of someone you can rely on. But even then, Archie Gray, disaster class last game against Nottingham Forest. Just, he made an error that led to a goal. I don't think that was wholly his fault. I think that was on Vicario more than it should be on Gray. But still, you can't make that mistake. I mean, he still has time to grow. It's just, there's going to be these pains. There's going to be these moments for him to grow. And I think that these are going to be the lessons, or these are going to be the games where he has to pick up those lessons and sort of just go on and grow from there. I just think even then, Tottenham, they should be doing more offensively, honestly. Mohamed Kudus, I mean, he had his good moments at West Ham. Richarlison, he's sort of back on the come up this year. 6 goals, 2 assists this season with Tottenham. Just still not really a guy you want as your sort of 9. He's more of a supporting role. He's more of a player who can come off the bench and sort of have that impact. And even then, Colomani as well is sort of struggling. It's just there's a lot of issues this Tottenham squad has to fix. And I mean, it's just I don't know if they'll be able to pull something out. Now, am I going to say that they're going to be fighting for relegation? No, but it could be another mid-table or bottom half table finish for this Tottenham squad, and it's very disappointing after sort of seeing similarities from last year.
Yeah, and I definitely agree. It is disappointing to see they really didn't build on the Europa League final campaign, which is kind of difficult to build on when you still finish 17th in the league. And I don't know. I think that they have the quality to do things, but then again, they just struggle to. They don't have the transfer pool that a team that the other 5 Big Six teams do, right? I mean, the other 5 Big Six teams either have the money in like a Man City case where, it's irresistible, or you have kind of the cultural pool where, Arsenal, Man United, Chelsea, Liverpool. How many times do those 4 clubs sign a player and then like we see a picture of the player as like a 10-year-old kid in that club's shirt? You don't ever see that with Tottenham. And I think Tottenham is a member of the Big Six because they've got the stadium, they've got the owner technically, they've got the ambition, but really do they? I think it's just kind of Tottenham in a nutshell, everything we're seeing this season. Moving on, we're going to talk the 3 teams that have really surprised a lot of people. Crystal Palace, who are currently that's a lie. Crystal Palace are currently 5th. Aston Villa are 3rd. I got them mixed up. And then Sunderland are in 8th. They've dropped down because they've had some difficult matches. Villa, 5 unbeaten in their last 5 matches across all competitions. 5 unbeaten in the Premier League. Unai Emery is working his typical first half magic. We'll see how they do in the second half of the season. This is with Jadon Sancho, kind of being a non-factor. Harvey Elliott being a non-factor. Their transfer window was not great. It was actually, I would probably call it ugly, what they did in this window for a team that was meant to be competing. But the good part of it is they've got this guy, this English player. I don't know if you've heard of him. I don't know why I keep doing that bit. Morgan Rogers has been brilliant this season. He scored one of the best goals this season against West Ham. He had a brace in that game. He's got 5 goals, 3 assists in the Prem. He's been very good creating chances. He is such a unique player because he is a 10, he's a winger, and an 8 all-in-one player. And it's fascinating to see the way he's deployed game after game after game. I think he's a guy that is kind of unfortunately destined for a move to a big club because you do like to see the players stay at the small clubs. But I think he's also a player who at 23 years old, for England, he's going to be a quality player next summer, and I'm very excited to see what he can do down the future.
Yeah, and I mean this Aston Villa squad, I mean, to the surprise of many, has been phenomenal, right? And even then, I remember Aston Villa fans, I don't know why I can't say your club name, in the summer all over Twitter, all over Instagram, all over all social media complaining about their transfer window. Oh, we've been doing great things. We have the revenue. Why can't we sign players? Why can't we do this? Why can't we do that? They've been doing great with what they've had, and they still have injuries. I mean, right now, they have their main man at goalkeeper out, Emiliano Martinez out with the back injury. They have Pau Torres out with a knock. We don't know when he'll be back. And even then, you have players like Tyrone Mings and Ross Barkley who have been routine in the appearances for this squad. As soon as they come back, this squad can get even stronger. You have pieces that are going to be able to come in like Mings, like Torres. And I mean, they go in, they fill in those positions like for Konsa or for Lindelof, who has been surprisingly decent for this Aston Villa squad this season. I mean, had an assist last game. everything is sort of falling into place, and little by little, with time, we'll be able to see, can this Aston Villa squad withhold the pressure? But I mean, I just want to talk about Ollie Watkins real quick, because what the heck is going on with him? Only 3 goals in 16 matches played this season for this Aston Villa squad. I have a lot of questions.
I understand your sentiment there, and it was really a big part of why when he was being thrown around in transfer talks to Arsenal, to Manchester United, the teams that were striker hungry in the summer, I was skeptical. I did not want either of those two teams to end up with a guy like Ollie Watkins, because he's 29 years old. He had a really good purple patch, but it's not like he's this just great goal scorer. Even then, last season, he had 16 goals in the Premier League, which is good. The year before, he had 19. Excuse me. And losing John Duran hurt Watkins as well. I think, unfortunately, though, for Watkins, it's a return to the mean. I always thought there was going to be a drop-off. I did not think it was going to be this substantial, this large, and this early. I thought this was a year or two down the road. But it's worrying. It makes me wonder what Villa does in the transfer window. Obviously, Morgan Rogers, when you're playing like that, you don't want to disrupt his flow. But still, I know he hasn't. The issue is, like, with Watkins, it's his age. And I don't want to say, oh, yeah, you can't sign guys over 27, but still. He's only getting older.
It's weird because traditionally with strikers, those peak years or those prime years are your 27s, 28s, maybe a 29 or a 30 because you're experienced and you know what you're doing because you've been doing it for a long time. But I'm just still, it's mind-boggling because you're in a squad that has players that can distribute the ball to you. Are they the best midfielders in the world? Are they the best midfielders in the Premier League? No. But they can still set you up. They can still put you in a position to succeed. And even then, 0 shots last game. 0 shots in 75 minutes. I am, again, confused. I'll continue to be confused. But let's go ahead and move on here to sort of to Crystal Palace. I mean, Rees, what have you seen from this Crystal Palace side, and what do you think that they need to continue doing in order to keep up this form?
I think they need to make sure that Adam Wharton and Mark Guéhi never leave the club. Because those two have been continued to be rumored from leaving Crystal Palace, and they have been 2 of the club's best players. Daniel Munoz has been phenomenal on the right side as well. And, their transfer window, I think, was really, really poor, given that who they lost, but also who they could have lost. If they had lost Guéhi to either Liverpool or Real Madrid, whoever ended up being, or whoever it would have ended up being. But also you lose Eze, who is one of the best 10s that the Premier League has seen over in the last couple of years, especially with Palace. He was so good with Palace. Obviously, it hasn't been as good with Arsenal, but still, the replacements, Yeremy Pino has been good, but it hasn't been great. It's a very similar story to Villa, where it's not the players they brought in that are making this difference. It's the fact that they still have so many guys from their last season. They have this familiarity. I mean, Daichi Kamada has been incredible in the midfield. It's a lot of pieces that have, just because they've been there, they've just gained this familiarity. And I think that's the type of thing that the Premier League needs more of, but it also... It's how you build a squad. We don't see this often in the Premier League because, what are the odds next season a lot of these players from the Villa and from Crystal Palace are gone out of another Big Six club? It wouldn't shock me, So it's fun to watch these two teams just go at it. I think also with Palace is their defense is probably a top 3 defense in the Premier League. And which is incredible to say that, because that is usually a marker usually reserved for the Big Six teams. I think you have Arsenal at number 1 without a shadow of a doubt. They've only conceded 10 in the Premier League. They've only conceded 1 in the Champions League, which is insane. And then you can shuffle around City, Villa, Chelsea, Palace for the top 3. I firmly have Palace in there alongside Chelsea at the moment. It has been incredible to watch, just the fact that, again, all these pieces are coming together. Chris Richards is finally having really a fit season, I feel like a big issue with Chris Richards over the recent years, as a U.S. men's national team fan, as you can see from the scarf behind, is the fitness hasn't always been there. He's played 23 games this season. His highest in a season with Palace is like 30, I think it is. And the fact that he's already on the verge of eclipsing that, he'll probably eclipse it in mid-January, is incredible. And I think, again, all these things are coming together at the perfect time for Palace. It's a perfect storm for them.
Yeah, and I mean, once again, picking up Lacroix as well
Yeah.
in 2024, I think that was a great purchase for this Crystal Palace squad. Why? Because even then, watching him at Wolfsburg, and even then, FIFA sort of helped me out sniff who he is, and then watching him from there, the Bundesliga is a physical league. Your defenders, they're big, they're tall, they're strong, and it's a very defensive league. He's gone to the squad, and he's been a compliment. He has been a staple for the squad, and he has been showing up consistently in and out. Yes, was last game against Man City not that great? Yes, but even then, there's still room for him to grow. He is 25, and the more he plays in this Premier League, the more he's going to adapt, and the more he adapts, I mean, the better this Crystal Palace squad will be able to rely on him and sort of let him do his thing in the back.
Yeah, his gold card was a demon, so I understand why you know him, Joa'o. We'll move to Sunderland now. They're in 8th place. It hasn't been as easy over the last few weeks. They've dropped 3 points in their 3. Oh my gosh, let me try that again. Sunderland have dropped points in 3 of their last 5 matches in the league, but they're still top 8, coming off promotion last season or into this season. They just beat their biggest rivals in the entire world, Newcastle United. What a game that was. They didn't score a goal themselves. Nick Voltamata, one of the worst own goals I've ever seen in my life. He's a striker, and you could tell he was a striker with the way he headed that ball into the back of the net. But that's not the main storyline with Sunderland. It's the fact that you look at the investment that they made over this transfer window. They went out. They recognized, hey, it is not easy to stay in the Premier League. Getting to the Premier League is, not easy in its own right, but staying in the Premier League is so difficult. How many times over recent years have we seen the top or the 3 teams get promoted and then instantly get relegated? They recognized that, and so they went out. They brought in some talent into the squad: Raniel Lido, Simon Adingra, Nordi Mukiele, Brian Brobby, Bertrand Traore, and really the top of the list, the fact that Sunderland, of all clubs, brought him back to the Premier League, Granit Xhaka. Everything they've done is a team that, it's not going to be pretty. They're not going to score a lot of goals. They've only scored 19 goals, which is on par with West Ham, who's currently 18th in the Premier League. The difference, though, is they have a positive goal difference because they don't concede. They are locked down defensively. They're probably another team that is in the running for one of the top 5 defenses in this league, alongside the 5 sides that I mentioned earlier. It is really, really fun to watch what's going on in Sunderland, which, is, again, we don't see this very often. And bless you, Joa'o. And I'm very interested to see. You must be a Newcastle fan the way you're getting sick from me talking about Sunderland. But what's your thoughts on them?
Well, look, I mean, Sunderland, funny enough, early in the Premier League season, Mexican fans start watching Sunderland for some reason, so I start tuning in a little more. And no, this squad defensively and sort of in the midfield, the cohesion they have and the way they play together and the way they drop back to defend, it's been a big reason why they've been successful offensively. And I mean, Granit Xhaka as well, I mean, he's been good in the midfield for this squad. I know he's your favorite Arsenal player of all time, Rees, no doubt. But
yeah, man, whatever.
Once again, continuing to look at this team. If they continue these defensive performances, they will be in that upper half of the Premier League table. I mean, they will have to sort of expect someone to pick it up offensively. I mean, Robbery needs to start scoring some goals, but even then, you can't really expect that much from him. He's not there yet for the Premier League. I think that he still needs a little bit more time. I still think that he needs a little bit more aging, basically, but
more
still,
experience.
More experience. Thank you. I couldn't find the word for some reason.
Yeah, we're gonna
But no,
get you with. I think we're gonna buy both of us a thesaurus for Christmas because I think we've said stature in this podcast like 10 times. So we're gonna study up on our vocab for next episode.
oh, for sure. But continuing, I mean, they need that forward. They need that one little piece up top that's gonna sort of create damage and still continue the philosophy that this squad has. But I mean, it's been an exciting team to watch so far.
Yeah, if they can get a big man up top, not to just play into the stereotypical Brexit ball, but if genuinely if they can get a striker that is good, and I mean prolific, that is a team that is not just a top half team, but a team that is a top 5 team. With the way they're cohesive. I do have a question, Joa'o. Why on earth did the Mexican national team fans leech onto Sunderland? Because they don't have any Mexican players.
That is correct. So if I'm not wrong, at the beginning of the season, or basically when all the transfer rumors were going on, Santiago Jimenez was rumored to go to Sunderland, and that sort of picked up in Mexico, and then people in Mexico were like, I don't care if he's there or not. He's once again being rumored for this winter window because Milan essentially wants him out. They're looking at different strikers, but it'd be interesting to see him land there. I don't know how he'd perform. As much as it hurts me to say this because I am a big Santiago Jimenez enthusiast, I don't think he's there for the Premier League. I don't think he's quick enough. He's been missing clear chances, but I mean, yeah, that's sort of where it picked up.
Yeah, I mean, if he could get back to his Feyenoord form, he'd absolutely be great for the Premier League, but the form in Milan has not been good. Moving now, we've got a little bit of time left, so we're going to talk some Champions League, bit of a speed run, but not really. Arsenal, top of the Premier League, top of the Champions League, with one of the most impressive Champions League runs I think we've seen in the league stage format. They are 6 matches, 6 wins, 17 goals scored, 1 goal conceded. The problems that they've been having in the Premier League against these low blocks have not existed in the Champions League because they beat Slavia Prague away from home 3-0, Club Brugge 3-0. But the wins against the big sides are also there. A 4-0 drubbing over Atletico Madrid. A 3-1 win over Bayern Munich, where Arsenal was all over Bayern. Bayern, who is second place in the table. That's the only match they've dropped. PSG is in there. I'm not going to go through the whole table. Not going to name every single team because who cares about Kairat Almaty in 36th place? Doesn't even sound real saying 36th place.
Ouch.
But, Joa'o, looking at all 36 teams, all 24 going to go to the knockout, the top 8 go into the round of 16 automatically, the next 16 have to play in the playoff. Who do you think is going to be a favorite to go all the way? And honestly, give me 2 sides that you think could go all the way.
Well, I think Manchester City, the way they've been growing, I think they have the potential to go all the way. And I'm going to stick with another Premier League side here. I mean, it's fairly obvious. I think Arsenal has the potential to go all the way. I said it before the season started. I said it in previous episodes. I've said it in previous conversations that we've had. This Arsenal squad has the pieces. I said it earlier in my little rant. I won't go into it again. Arsenal has everything they need to win the Champions League. If they can fix out their tweaks again, I think they're in. Manchester City, they're growing. I don't think they stop growing. I think that if you put them, any given team on any given day, I think they go ahead and take it.
I have to agree with you. I hate to copy you, but I'm honestly going to say those 2 teams are my 2 title favorites as well. I think with Arsenal, the fact that their offense is just this good and this good in Europe, when you go into the knockout stage and it's the one-off matches, yeah, it's technically 2 legs, but it's still a knockout football, one-off games. You take it one game at a time. It's going to be able to shut down these attacks for, whether it's away from home or at home. And then I think they've got the ability to score goals. I mean, again, we've mentioned Bukayo Saka. That is going to be the biggest difference in terms of you getting out. I mean, last season against PSG, where Arsenal struggled was they couldn't finish. They were creating the chances, but the finishing was not there. Arsenal, in that game, it was there for the taking, and I think the fact that they didn't win that will sting Arsenal fans for a long, long time. Man City, again, if they stay fit And I think that's the same issue with Arsenal, but I think it's more so an issue with Man City, just because I don't believe that they have the depth. If they can stay fit, this is a team that has the ability to honestly win a double. Now, obviously, that's ambitious, but I think they can. And then just to throw out a different team than you have, I wouldn't be surprised if PSG can get back to it. I know they've struggled. They're not doing well in the league. I think they're second in the league, which for most teams, that's really well. For PSG, that's unacceptable. And, they've dropped points in the Champions League to Bayern and Atletico Bilbao or Athletic Club. So who knows what happens there. But to round out the show, I just want to talk about the Premier League quality compared to some of these other leagues because, you look at who's in the Premier League that's in the Champions League. Arsenal, Man City, both teams in the top 4. Both teams have been dominant for much of it. Then you look at the other 3 teams. It's Tottenham and Newcastle. Newcastle kind of had that Cinderella run to sneak in there. And Liverpool as well. Tottenham, they had their Cinderella run in their own right, just in the Europa League to win it. Liverpool and Chelsea both earned it. All 6 Premier League teams in the Champions League are in 13th or higher. Tottenham and Newcastle are in the same spot that they are in the Premier League. Tottenham and Newcastle are 11th and 12th in the Premier League. They're 11th and 12th in the Champions League. I think time after time again, we see the money is going to the Premier League, and it's leading now that the best sides in the Premier League, or even the mid-table sides like Liverpool, they're struggling this season. They just went to the San Siro and won 1-0.
Yeah, and I mean, especially San Siro with a defense that Inter Milan has had these past couple seasons. I mean, it's impressive. You go in, you make a statement win, and I mean, the only other competitor, or really that people have advertised these past couple years, has been La Liga to Premier League, and even then, you have Barcelona in 15th place, which really, really, really surprises me. And then you have Atletico Madrid and Real Madrid in 7th and 8th. But then after that, you have Villarreal and Athletic Club. Villarreal in 35th, Athletic Club in 28th. I mean, there's no competition. Are there great teams? Yes. But outside of there, it's just, there's a big drop after those real, big 3, maybe big 4 in Spain. You just don't see that in the Premier League. Everyone has been performing. Everyone has been up to par. And really, just since I'm touching on the topic, it'll be interesting to see how Real Madrid and how Barcelona decides to compose themselves in the Champions League after sort of what's been going on recently.
Yeah, and again, it's something we'll definitely talk about more after the new year, just because there aren't any matches until then. No point in speculation. To round out the show, as I know I just said that to talk about the quality difference, but Joa'o, Leagues Cup 2026 info just dropped. Tom Bogert tweets out 18 MLS clubs, the 18 playoff teams from 2025, and all 18 Liga MX sides. Kicks off August 4th, final September 6th. I know this is your favorite competition in the world, without a shadow of a doubt. Joa'o, give me one word. Make it appropriate for television and appropriate that your mother would want to hear it without hitting you. That on your thoughts on the Leagues Cup.
Bogus. And not Matthew Bogus. Bogus.
Bogus. He was an absolute legend in our Salford City manager career mode, but
for LAFC, he was clutch. But I don't think that this competition should be a thing. You ask me, I can say something else after the show. I won't say it right now. It should be for the top MLS clubs, top La Liga squads playing in South America again. Whether it's the Libertadores, whether it's the Sudamerica. Yes, is it difficult to do? Yes, are logistics difficult? But that's the only way you're going to expand if you're both of these leagues. If you truly want to be competitive, if Liga MX truly wants to return to what it was one day, because I do think it is different, you have to go out there and you have to go battle it against, I don't care if it's Bolivian, Peruvian, Brazilian, Argentinian, Uruguayan. You have to go out there and you have to go fight those teams. Why? Out there, you see it. Match week in, match week out. This game means more to them. Look at how the fans get together. Look at the atmospheres they create. Look at the way these teams play. It's still ahead of La Liga. It's still ahead of Liga MX. It's still ahead of MLS. And if they want to improve, they have to go out there. If not, if they want to continue their string of mediocrity, which I think affects both national teams, these domestic leagues, because they've been a big part in raising talents that go into these teams, you have to go out there and you have to go compete against the best. You have to stop with these competitions.
Yeah, I agree. And I think also the issue with Leagues Cup is, though, and I think the issue with putting MLS and Liga MX sides down in Copa Libertadores and the Sudamericana as well, is that the U.S. already, or really MLS rather, and starting to be the USL, does not prioritize U.S. Open Cup. And I think you should prioritize your own domestic competitions before you start, doing these Leagues Cup and other international priorities. But regardless, none of it actually matters, because at the end of the day, nothing in this sport matters, because if it doesn't bring in cash, who cares? But that'll do it for this episode. Thank you so much for tuning in and surviving each and every one of Joa'o's rants, tangents. No, I'm just kidding. They were all good. They were all good stuff. It is a beautiful game, but it's way more beautiful when Joa'o does rant, because it is fun to listen to, fun to watch, fun to sit back and observe. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe on this YouTube podcast if you're listening. Follow us at The Inverted Microphone on Instagram and TikTok, because Joa'o posts his most hot and disagreeable takes only. Joa'o, where can they follow you?
They can follow me on Twitter at Joa'o Reports and on TikTok at TheJL Football.
And you can follow me on Twitter at Rees Goodall, TikTok at Rees FC, mainly followed at The Inverted Microphone. But once again, thank you guys so much for tuning in and listening to Joa'o and I.